Our story begins with the hero confronting a massive creature snarling at him while he nervously clutched a pointed blade in his palms. It dashed at him aggressively, but luckily, he leaped ahead to dodge it timely. Then he pondered if it was the creature from his recent memory and if it was the marked beast. Per his recollections, the world he was presently in was named Blue Star, and in 2020 on the Blue Star calendar, numerous space rifts emerged globally, and countless furious creatures emerged from them. Furious creatures are incredibly mighty and inflict a deadly harm to humankind. In the combat against furious creatures, some individuals discovered they could assimilate life energy to alter their bodies and gain remarkable abilities, and they are termed martial artists. With the aid of martial artists, humans succeeded in constructing several safe havens in the desolate land to resist the furious creatures, but he did not anticipate perishing from a zombie horde in his previous existence. He arrived in that realm filled with martial artists and furious creatures when he opened his eyes. Then he was astonished to observe the creature grinning its vast mouth at him. Luckily, he managed to block it using his blade. But he sensed a potent electric charge on the creature's body and was aware he would perish if he contacted it. The creature was too formidable, forcing him backward. But he still evaded it, and it collided with the trees behind him, causing a loud blast. He examined it and noticed the creature was wedged amidst the trees. He lunged at it to assault it, knowing it was his opportunity. Then he sliced it repeatedly using his dagger. But he observed his trembling hand and acknowledged it was truly impossible for regular folks to slay a furious creature, and he had exhausted all his energy, but he could not even mark it. The creature roared furiously and freed itself while he contemplated that his current physique had zero aptitude and feared the initial possessor of his body had neglected himself excessively, leading him to guess that was why the owner only carried a knife into the wild and was ending his life, under the guise of hunting a creature. The creature glared at him angrily and charged at him again. But he gritted his teeth, yelling he did not want to perish since he assumed control of his body. He would lead a decent life for his body's original owner. Then he waited for it to approach him, recognizing there was no fur on its belly, and although the electric charge was intense, it did not stem from that section because it was guarding its belly, and it was the creature's vulnerability. So he yelled that whether he perished or survived depended on that assault. But then someone effortlessly severed the creature's head with a single punch, leaving him astonished and bewildered while gazing at a purple-haired woman. The woman addressed him as Chumo and instructed him to vacate the area swiftly. He recalled the woman was Chen Ziwei, the childhood companion of his body's original owner. Then, he sensed something in his mind and remembered the parents discussing him and Ziwei bonding and questioning if they should arrange their engagement. Then Ziwei informed Chumo that both their parents perished on a quest, so they must depend on each other henceforth. Then Ziwei affectionately informed him that she heard there was a treasure in furious creatures that could enhance the human physique, so she could hunt solo and would surely devise a method for him to acquire aptitude. But Chumo told Ziwei to quit being kind to him because she was not his betrothed, and his parents would not have perished if her parents did not invite them to hunt together. He was astounded to recall it and wondered how the original owner of his body could treat his fiancée like that, and that Chumo did not understand gratitude. Then he observed Ziwei feeling faint and she pondered if she had expended too much energy earlier. She fell unconscious, but he caught her in time and asked if she was okay while realizing that she was severely hurt, and guessed that she must have just completed a dangerous mission and came to save him right away without recovering. She was puzzled when he asked her if she was okay because Chumo hadn't spoken to her for a long time. But she still stood up while telling him that she was fine and that the purple lightning wolf would emit a smell that could be identified by its pack when it dies, then it will call its pack to avenge it, so he should leave right away. Suddenly, a loud and a lot of growling noise can be heard around them, making him ask what is that sound. Then a pack of blue beasts appear and walk towards them, then the beasts immediately run towards them to attack. She lunged forward while telling him to run. She gathered her power to her glove and attacked the beasts, making them thrown away, but because of it, she got hurt too. The beasts were slammed into the trees hard and she was slammed into him too. He felt pain because of it, but he realized that Ziwei was unconscious and one of the beasts was furiously lurking around them, making him shiver in fear. The other beasts slowly surrounded them, making him panic, knowing that Ziwei was almost as strong as a martial artist. But she couldn't win against those enraged beasts, so he thought there was no chance and wondered why he had to drag someone down with him and if he was going to repeat the mistake from his past life when he just came to that world again. But then he firmly told himself no and convinced himself that there must be a way because he can't die there. Then he accidentally touched the dead beast on the ground. Then something lit up from it, making him shocked and wonder what it was while looking at the system showing him that he activated the absorption system. He wondered what it meant by absorption. What is there to absorb? And if it was the dead body of that purple lighting wolf, then the system showed him that it was level 1 intermediate enraged beast, purple lighting wolf, and he can absorb it. The beasts jumped together around them, making him shout that it was not the time to check it because nothing was worse than the current situation, and shouted the word absorb in panic. The system showed him that the absorption was successful, so he received subpar electric attribute talent and asked him if he wanted to receive, but the only choice was yes, so he accepted it, and he felt so much pain while purple bolts of lightning were coming out from his body. Then he released a powerful power, making the beast around them thrown away. The beast was electrocuted and collapsed on the ground. On the other hand, he can feel the power and he knows that he received the talent to cultivate from the enraged beast. The other beasts launched furiously to attack him, but he simply tightly grabbed his dagger and gathered his power toward it, then easily slashed the beasts using it. After it, he looked at his slowly breaking dagger and felt that the power was building up in his body. The remaining beasts glared at him in anger, but he realized that his wounds didn't hurt anymore and his movements had become more agile because the beasts' attacks seemed to be slower for him and their fur wasn't impenetrable anymore. He swings his dagger toward the beasts, knowing that he can chop them in half and he should be able to win against the enraged beast and protect Chen Ziwei. Then he glared at them, knowing that he should attack. Then he ran forward to meet their attacks, furiously shouted while gathering his power in his dagger, and easily cut the beasts that were on his way in half. He looked back and saw the chops and dead beasts together with the broken ground behind. He knows that although he can't be certain about how strong he has become after obtaining a talent, he did it, but then the system pops up and shows him that it calculating his combat statistics. Then it showed that his basic strength was 1527 Jin. Jin means a unit equivalent to half of a kilogram, plus additional strength from his attribute lightning 3089 Jin. He couldn't believe it, but he knew that it was as strong as an intermediate martial apprentice, and that electric attribute talent is indeed powerful. Then he realized that just by awakening, his basic strength had reached 1527 Jin, and after using the power of lightning, it doubled. After he obtained a talent, he felt healthier than before. The system popped up, showing him it was searching for his target. A second later, it detected absorption available and asked if he wished to continue. He was happy to realize he could absorb a single beast multiple times and, of course, wanted to absorb it. Then he shouted, "Absorb." The blood and power came out of the beast's body, and the system showed his absorption was successful, obtaining the blood essence of the purple lightning wolf. He was happy it was the blood essence of the enraged beast because he knew the lifeblood of an enraged beast is the essence's quintessence and could accelerate the body's tempering speed. Also, he knows that although it is of the lowest grade, it's the most suitable for him at the moment. He put his hand above the dead beast, wanting to see what else he could collect. But the system showed the target's resources had been exhausted and could not be collected, and only one target can be collected every month. Also, the martial arts talents possessed by targets during their lifetime, physique, essence, and more can be collected. After reading it, he realizes that the purple lightning leopard's level is too low, so he must choose next month's target carefully. Then he walked closer to Ziwei and carefully lifted her up, planning to take her back first, and thought that as for the purple lightning wolf, its resources cannot be collected anymore, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring back some of its meat for a meal. A moment later, on the house sofa, Ziwei was talking in her sleep and sweating while calling Chumo's name because, in her dreams, the beasts launched towards them, and she walked forward to protect Chumo even though he didn't want it. But the beast bit Chumo's neck and ate him alive, making her stunned in shock and fearfully calling Chumo. Then she woke up in panic, loudly calling Chumo's name. But then she felt her head hurt. He asked her if she was fully awake and told her to drink water so they could have a meal. She looked at the table full of different and delicious dishes and asked him if he made all those and how they got back there, but he just asked her back, who else could it be if not him, and told her that she had so many questions. Then told her to eat up, making her blush and confused. A minute later, they were facing each other at the table, but they were both silent. He felt that it was awkward and needed to say something, but Ziwei was just silently looking down. Then he broke the silence, telling her that yesterday was really dangerous. Fortunately, an exploration team happened to pass by and save them, but she kept silent, making him realize she was completely ignoring him. He stood up and told her he was done eating, so he'd go back to his room, but reminded her to remember to wash the dishes after she finished, and that the beast meat could quickly heal wounds, so she should eat more. She watched him walk away in silence and felt like it was a dream because, for the first time, he cooked for her and even talked to her, so she thought if it was a dream, she would rather never wake up for the rest of her life. On the other hand, he closed his room door and leaned against the wall, breathing in relief. Then he realized that the relationship between his body's original owner and Ziwei had reached a freezing point, and they didn't know how to treat each other, and they couldn't live peacefully together anymore. But he didn't want to think about it because he knew that to survive in the apocalypse, he couldn't rely on another but himself, and the most important thing for him now was to improve his strength. Then he put the refining blood inside him, planning to start with it first. When it was inside of him, the veins in his body popped up slowly, making him feel so much pain and bend down on the floor while it slowly spread in his body. A minute later, the pain slowly faded away, and he didn't think that refining the blood essence would hurt like it, but his next plan was going to focus on training to completely refine it. 1 month later, in the training room in their house, he was completely focused, then opened his eyes, activated his power, positioned himself, and punched the air with full power. His power flew towards the vase in the center of the room. It hit the flower in the vase, and only one petal of the flower fell, which he caught and destroyed, knowing that the attack power was not bad. But he needed to practice the lightning arc more, and the enraged beast's blood essence had been completely refined, so he wondered how powerful he was now. The system showed him that his combat stats basic strength is 2134 Jin plus additional strength from his attribute lighting 4198 Jin. He was glad that his basic strength had increased by more than 600 Jin, and the meridians of the body had also been greatly expanded. He also thinks that the enhancement brought by the enraged beast's blood essence alone is not bad because it gives at least 400 Jin. So he realized that his 1 month was not in vain. He was training hard every day except for the time he was eating and sleeping. However, he knows that he can't relax just yet because he knows that above the current cultivation talent, there is an even higher cultivation talent, and those geniuses who possess those talents, their progress speed is beyond his imagination. He opened the shower and washed his hair, knowing that if there is a steady stream of enraged beast blood essence, he can completely enter the realm of martial arts within 6 months. Meanwhile, in some training rooms, Zoe was serious and busy training herself. Afterward, she exhaustedly looked up at the test machine and saw that her score was 8,364. She knows that there is still a month left until the Academy's hunting trial, but she knows that her level of power is simply not enough because the two-headed python is a level 2 medium-grade enraged beast, and to hunt it, she should need to have stepped onto the path of cultivation, and a martial cultivator must have the strength of at least 10,000 Jin. So she tiredly figured out that she still has a long way to go, but then she remembers her dream of Chumo being eaten up, making her silent and firmly punched the score test while shouting that she must become a martial cultivator and told Chumo to just wait because she will definitely bring the legendary heart of the dual-headed python that can change one's physique back for him. Meanwhile, in Luyang Safety Base Commercial District, he was busy walking in the street with a lot of vendors offering their weapons and food. He looked at different meats of beasts and continued walking while the system continuously showed him a low target that he could absorb. He realizes that most of them are level 1 enraged beast corpses, and even if he collects them all, he won't obtain better talents or physiques than what he already has. So he knows that he needs to at least find a level 2 enraged beast. But then a lot of people stop in front of him, making him shocked. When he lifted his head, he saw a lot of men teasingly smiling at him, and one of them asks if he was Chumo, the waste of their Luyang First Academy. The man with white hair pushed the men to the side and asked him what the useless weakling is doing there. Then the man devilishly smiled at him, and he remembered that it was Zhu Kai. One of the men asked him what is with that look in his eyes and reminds him that Kai is the genius of their class, who was already at the peak of the mid-ranked martial disciple realm, with a strength of 6,000 Jin. The other man teasingly agreed and reminded him that if it wasn't for Zoe protecting him, he couldn't stay in the academy. Then the man once again told him not to be so shameless and that he should leave Zoe on his own accord because Zoe and Kai are meant for each other. Then Kai proudly asked him what the use of waste like him coming there to find materials of enraged beasts, and if he dared to participate in the Academy's hunting trial because, if that was so, it was perfect because he'll let him witness with his own eyes how Zoe moans and cries beneath him. He firmly told Kai that he was asking for death, but Kai just laughed at him and told everyone that the useless weakling who can only rely on women still has the audacity to get angry. Then the man told Kai not to mind him and asked Kai why bother lowering himself to the level of waste. Then Kin told him that if he had the guts, he should come to the hunting trial 1 month from now. He knows that Kai wants to kill him, so he must prepare early and strike first because targeting Zhu Kai, even setting a level 2 enraged beast as the collection goal, won't do, and it needs to be at least level 3. Then he looked around and noticed that the enraged beasts available in the market were all too low level and level 3 beasts were almost non-existent, so he knew that he needed to think of a solution. But then he heard people shout that the Wind Chasers hunting squad has returned, and they have slain a powerful level 3 enraged beast. He followed the people and saw a large beast being dragged, and then heard the people saying that it was actually the Earth Dragon beast, and it is rumored to have reached the middle stage of level 3. So it claimed numerous martial practitioners as its victims, and there have even been instances where martial masters died at its hands. He looked at the men in front of the dead beast and wondered if it was the Wind Chasers hunting squad because they were so strong, and just looking at them from a distance, he could feel the pressure. One of the people told the squad that the fact that the Wind Chaser squad was able to hunt it down meant their captain, Jiu Feng, must have already reached the mid-level martial master realm. One of the squad replied that their Wind Chasers hunting squad was powerful and their captain, Jiu Feng, had already reached the mid-level martial master realm and could hunt down level 3 enraged beasts. Also, they are now recruiting members with advanced stage martial practitioner strength or higher, and if they have elemental talents, they can lower the requirement to the early stage martial practitioner level. The system popped up in front of him, showing him that the beast is a level 3 intermediate grade enraged beast, Earth Dragon beast, and it can be collected, making him smile and think that he found it. He told it that it was the collection target for that month. Then one of the people asked the member of the Chaser squad if they could touch it because it was their first time seeing a level 3 enraged beast, which the man replied, of course. He smiled, knowing that it was a great opportunity, then reached to touch it together with the other people while ordering the system to collect it. Then he grabbed the power inside of it and turned around while hiding it in his jacket. The people excitedly ran towards the beast to touch it while the system showed him that he successfully collected it and obtained an intermediate cultivation physique. Then it asked him if he would like to absorb it, but he just walked away from them happily because he got it. A moment later, in the training room, he looked at his hand and noticed that he was almost there because all that was left for him to do was to absorb it. He knows that the intermediate cultivation physique of a level 3 intermediate grade enraged beast will surely not disappoint him, and he thinks it is the right time, so he puts it inside him and absorbs it. The power slowly inside his body made him bend down on the floor and shout because of so much pain. It hurt so much to the point he felt his bones were being broken, and he shouted loudly because of unendurable pain. But then he felt a warm flow spreading from his heart, and the damaged bones and meridians were being repaired. He also felt that every time they broke and reformed, the strength of his body increased significantly, and he would gladly repeat it until a complete transformation. A few minutes later, he opened his eyes that released powerful aura, and he felt so fast that his body felt weightless. He clenched his fists and powerfully punched it into the air, then it pushed the punching robot to the wall, breaking it in the process. He tiredly looked at it but was happy that it was indeed an intermediate cultivation physique, and he felt like just using it once gives him more than 10 times the power of his previous training. Also, he figured out that physique is the foundation of cultivation, and a good talent truly needs a strong physique to reach its full potential. Then the system showed him that his basic strength increased to 2,659 Jin, and his strength with the Elemental of Thunder enhancement was 5,270 Jin. He noticed that the base strength had increased by a solid 500 Jin and the cultivation speed was incredibly fast. So if it continues like this, he was confident that within a month, he'll have reached a strength comparable to a late-stage martial disciple, and for the upcoming Academy's hunting trial, he told Kai that if he wants to kill him, then he'll kill him first. A month later, in Liang's premier academy, the most respected and powerful martial arts academy of Liang base with the strongest faculty, students with exceptional academic records can study there until high school, but if they do not pass the talent and physique test and cannot become warriors, they are moved to the lowest ranked, the 5th academy. The academy often organizes trials and hunts for the students, evaluating their performance and rewarding the best ones, and that day was the trial day at Liang's premier academy. Kai joined the academy, and the students joyfully informed him that he was indeed the prodigy of their class because, in a very short period, he had attained the peak of the intermediate martial stage and gained a strength of 6,000 Jin. Others also mentioned that it was frightening to gain an additional 600 Jin of strength in just 2 months, and perhaps after he returned, he would be invited to the elite class, but he simply advised them to stay humble. A student exclaimed that Chumo was present and questioned how Chumo dared to show up there. Kai, irritated, glanced around and saw Chumo strolling past a student who was murmuring that Chumo lacked talent and physique, so participating in the trial was akin to suicide, and they assumed Chumo had already been relocated to the 5th academy, making them wonder why he was still there. Also, others whispered that Chumo indeed had a kind fiancé, Ziwei from the elite class, who was safeguarding him, and it was an art to live off of someone else, so they couldn't help but be envious of Chumo. He was annoyed by the students' murmurs about him and Ziwei, but he just silently entered the academy. Kai questioned him if he was the worthless Chumo and if he was that desperate to see him getting closer to Ziwei because he actually came, but he just sternly stared at Kai without responding. Then a military truck pulled up behind them, and a student informed Kai that the teachers had arrived. Kin left while mockingly saying that he is fortunate, but questioned if he thought he could survive the trial. The teacher loudly instructed the students to assemble and line up according to their student numbers and quickly check in with him. The teacher also directed them to board the bus in the order of the lineup because he would clarify the details on the bus. When they all settled on the bus and it started moving, the teacher informed them that their destination was the wilderness beyond the base, causing the students to panic and inquire if it wasn't a region where only warriors and above ventured to hunt, and if it wasn't akin to sprinting straight to hell because even warriors might not make it out alive, and they were all just martial apprentices. The other teacher reassured them not to fret because they were headed to the northern part of the town, and the sole level 3 ferocious beast, the Earth Dragon Beast, had already been hunted down by the Wind Chasers team. Then the stern teacher proceeded by informing them that afterward, the base enlisted over 10 hunting teams to clear the area and exterminate all the level 2 or higher ferocious beasts to establish a hunting zone with a 20-mile radius. The teacher also earnestly informed them that currently, only level 1 ferocious beasts inhabit that region, which is ideal for the Academy's trial, and both Teacher Lin and he would be there to guard them, but if they were still too terrified to proceed, they should disembark the bus now and return. The frightened students just gulped down their saliva because of their pride. Observing this, the teacher started explaining the hunting regulations and informed them that the hunting trial would be scored based on the strength and level of the beasts slain. Also, the top 3 would receive prizes, and there would be no reward for those below 3rd place. The 3rd place winner would receive a bottle of level 2 ferocious beast blood. The 2nd place winner would receive 2 bottles of level 2 ferocious beast blood, and the 1st place winner would receive 3 bottles of level 2 ferocious beast blood as well as a bronze level martial skill. The students were astonished because the rewards were extremely generous and remarked that only prodigies like Kai could secure 1st place. Teacher Lin displayed something and clarified that it was a communication talisman, so if there was any peril, they should crush it immediately, and the teachers would receive the signal and come to their aid. But they shouldn't assume that possessing a communication talisman would ensure their safety because the wilderness is brimming with danger, so they must be vigilant at all times. Then the strict teacher vociferously informed them that the hunting trial would last for 5 days, so they could only exit after it concluded and asked them if they comprehended, to which they all responded that they did. Kai, with a smile, declared that he was going to claim the martial skills and beast blood, and a man inquired if he could stick with him and if they should proceed together, but Kai instructed the man to leave. He grinned upon hearing that Kai desired to eliminate him, coveting Ziwei, and with the backing of the Zhu family, Kai's threat was too significant, so he believed Kai had to perish, and he was aware that to accumulate more points, Kai would certainly venture deep into the wilderness, so he deduced that it would be the optimal opportunity to assassinate Kai. Shortly after, they reached the forest, causing the students to question if it was the wilderness because it had a magnificent vista. The teacher glanced at his watch and observed that it was time. Then he informed the students that the Academy's hunting trial was commencing. Then Kai and the others immediately dashed into the forest. The strict teacher told Teacher Lin that in the current year, there's a promising talent. Lin asked the teacher if he was talking about Zhu Kai because, after all, he has the resources of the Zhu family backing him. The teacher agreed and reported that among the same grade, no one should be able to surpass Zhu Kai. Then they saw Chumo just getting off the bus and asked him if he was sure he wanted to go because the chance of survival for ordinary people in the wilderness is only 1%. And even a level 1 ferocious beast is not something an ordinary person can contend with, so he needs to think it through. He thanked his teachers for their concern but told them that maybe he was that 1%. The strict teacher told Teacher Lin that Chumo seemed a bit different now, but Teacher Lin just laughed and said that the hunting trial seemed exciting. On the other hand, he was behind a tree and thought that Kai energy not only allows humans to possess extraordinary strength and awaken talents, but it can also cause mutations and growth in ferocious beasts and even plants. But he knows that with danger, an opportunity often arises, and hunting teams like the Wind Chasers team rely on hunting in the wilderness to obtain resources. So he thinks since he can't find Zhu Kai's whereabouts for now, he might as well hunt a ferocious beast to test his combat skills. But he notices that until now he hasn't seen a single ferocious beast yet without noticing it from behind. When it was closer, he felt it and immediately looked back. Then he jumped backward to avoid its attack, knowing that it was a level 1 inferior ferocious beast, an iron spine hound. It's a ferocious beast with both high attack and speed, but it has low endurance and the conventional hunting method is to engage it and wear down its stamina. But he just launched his fist toward it and punched it using his lightning power, making it slam hard on the ground and killing it in an instant. He noticed that with the power of lightning infused, after absorbing the blood of a ferocious beast, he now possesses a strength of over 6,000 jin, equivalent to the late stage of a martial apprentice, so a mere iron spine hound is no match for him at all. He bends down with his tube, knowing that using the absorption system on low-level ferocious beasts is a waste, so he plans to directly absorb the beast's blood using the method taught by the academy. But then a lot of different beasts appear around him and saw him. Then they together attacked from behind him to eat him alive, but he just simply looked back while holding his dagger and told them that they arrived in perfect timing. Then he easily slashed them using his dagger while thinking that he'll make them all his whetstones. A moment later, when the sun was about to set, in some parts of the forest, the snake beast was being thrown hard to the ground and a lot of beasts were killed around him while he was busy looking at his level 1 intermediate grade ferocious beast, the silver ring viper, which was his 7th one, and realized that he had collected 5 portions of beast blood already, so he thinks it was enough for that day. He drank one of them, planning to take a break. After consuming it, he felt that the beast blood is truly amazing because after he absorbed it last time, it increased his strength by at least 100 jin, but he thinks it was a pity that he can only use it once every 3 days and it would be great if he could use it continuously. But then he heard someone from a closer distance shouting for help, and the man was running while shouting that it was a rampaging giant bear. He saw the man and begged him to help him. Then a huge bear appeared behind the man and growled loudly. He couldn't believe that it was the level 1 superior grade ferocious beast, the rampaging giant bear, and he remembered that the academy had records about it that wherever a rampaging giant appears, there must be a nest of spirit essence bees nearby. And he knew that the spirit essence bee liquid brewed from spirit essence bees can greatly shorten the digestion interval of drinking beast blood, so it was truly a case of ask and he shall receive. The man told him not to use the communication talisman and that they should kill it together, and afterward, they'll share the spirit essence bee liquid. But he just smiled and released his power, knowing that with the spirit essence bee liquid, victory is within his grasp. The giant bear furiously glared at them and attacked the student who was on the ground. The student was thrown in front of him, making him shocked. But he noticed that the student was dead, so he angrily asked how dare it kill someone in front of him. Then he ran toward it while telling it that he'd slay it. Then he attacked the giant bear continuously, but he knew that the rampaging giant bear was physically strong, so he couldn't win against it in terms of raw power, so he had to carefully maneuver around it and attack its skull and heart using electricity. Then stabbed his dagger in its arm, pierced it deeper, and used his electric talent power to attack it. The bear was electrocuted and shouted in pain, but it changed and swung its arm furiously, making him notice that it was bad because the pain from electrocution made it enraged, and it entered the berserk state. He jumped backward to distance himself, but it speedily launched its hand to attack him. But he knew that he can't dodge it, so he covered his head and got thrown hard to the ground, breaking the ground in the process. When he was about to stand up, the bear was about to step on him without him realizing it because he was busy thinking that the bear's attack power and speed increased during the berserk state, and due to his lack of speed, his attack frequency is too low, so if he continues it, he'll run out of stamina even if he doesn't get hit. But when he looked back, he saw it launching toward him, making him stunned in shock. But fortunately, he pushed himself in time to avoid it, and he realizes that it wasn't working, so he planned to find a chance to intercept its attack first. Then he attacked its eyes using his lightning, making it blind for a moment, and then he immediately ran toward it, jumped while holding his dagger knowing that he'll need to restrict its movements next, and pierced it through its feet, then used his electric talent once again. It growled loudly in pain, and he was also shouting while using his lightning power to electrocute it, but it still managed to punch him, making him shocked and cough blood out. He cussed in pain and slowly let go of his dagger while wondering if it was the end of his current body, but he prayed to stay just a little and was about to think about his regret. But then he felt something inside his body making him awake and realized that it was the blood of the enraged beast, and that the beast blood that he collected directly isn't as pure as using the system to extract it, so he was only starting to absorb it now and his body is recovering strength. The bear furiously launched its hand to attack him again, but he knew that the victory hadn't been decided yet. The bear punched him again, but he avoided it and appeared behind it. Then he launched his fist to attack it while calling it a bastard and telling it to die. Because of his punch, the bear was slammed on the ground hard. A minute later, he exhaustively pulled his bloody hand out of the dead bear and was convinced that a level 1 high-grade beast was indeed powerful because it incapacitated him with a single attack. And if not because of the power from the beast's blood, he would have died there. He gets off the huge bear while thinking that speed is crucial, and if he can obtain wind attribute talent, he can make up for his shortcomings and his combat ability will be on another level. But then he feels someone with killing intent coming toward him, and noticed from midair that it was Zhu Kai. But then suddenly, Kai appeared behind him, making him shocked, and realized that Kai was so fast that it was almost as if he teleported, and that Kai has wind attribute talent. Kai looked at the man dead on the ground while telling him that no wonder he felt a huge commotion from afar and he met a rampaging bear. Also, Kai thinks the student was fighting against the bear and died as a result, and trash like him merely scavenged the student's loot. Then Kai teasingly told him that as it turns out, what is sought is found without any effort, and that he finally found him. Kai didn't stop and told him it was a pity that the student encountered a rampaging giant bear and fought it to the death, but he backstabbed his classmate when he was at his weakest and that he just happened to pass by and witnessed his cruel actions. Then Kai teasingly asked him if he thought it was a good story, but he just looked down in silence. Kai told him that they really weren't sworn enemies and it was a pity that he was Ziwei's fiancé, so he was fortunate and unfortunate at the same time because it was unfortunate for him to be so weak. He quietly told Kai that he was right. Kai couldn't believe it and asked him what did he say, and if he was going to beg him to spare him because he realized he would die and that it was impossible. But he teasingly tells Kai that he had misunderstood and what he meant is they are not sworn enemies, but Ziwei is his fiancé, therefore he has to send him to hell. Kai easily dodged his attack, but Kai was shocked and loudly asked him if he had an electric attribute talent and if he was pretending to be an ordinary person. But he just simply attacked Kai and noticed that Kai was fast and wondered if it was the speed of someone with a wind attribute talent. He looked back to trace Kai and was shocked to see Kai preparing to attack him with his blade wind power while yelling at him to die. He realizes that he can't dodge it in time, so he uses his electric attribute talent to block Kai's attack. Kai noticed that his lightning pierced through his wind blade and realized that he couldn't take his attack head-on, so Kai stepped to each tree to escape and landed on a higher tree. Then Kai asked him if he was an advanced martial apprentice because he broke through his void-slicing blade and how it was possible when he was publicly acknowledged trash who couldn't cultivate. He replied that what he saw might not be the truth, and then he released his lightning ball and teasingly asked Kai if he would be able to dodge it, knowing that he had specifically trained precision control of his electric attribute talent for a moment like this. Then he attacked Kai using his lightning ball, making Kai notice that his control over his talent surpasses an advanced martial apprentice. Kai easily avoided his lightning balls while asking him, so what if he is an advanced martial apprentice when he has the wind attribute talent? He can't even hit him. He was shocked to see Kai disappearing in thin air, avoiding his attacks, but then Kai appeared behind him and attacked him with his blade while telling him that he can slash at him. He got hit by Kai's blade and Kai continuously attacked him while laughing and telling him that it was the difference between them, so he must die. He was shielding himself when he realized that Kai was right, because even if his attacks are powerful, they are useless if he can't hit Kai, and Kai is making use of his speed to deal minor damage to him constantly, so he can win in a battle of attrition over time. He was getting slashed everywhere when he also noticed that not only was Kai's movement speed abnormally higher than an ordinary person's, but so was his reaction speed, so he knew that he must get Kai's wind attribute talent. He closed his eyes, knowing that if Kai wants to kill him, he'll have to land near no matter how he moves. Then he can predict Kai's movement path. He was shielding himself with his lightning while predicting that the last time Kai appeared was from his 9 o'clock direction, and Kai's attack frequency is about once every 4 to 6 seconds. So he thinks from Kai's movement logic, Kai will appear next at. Then he pointed his lightning arrow on his side and released it toward where Kai was. Kai noticed that he can't dodge it and he was stunned when he saw the arrow near him, so he got hit by it and was slammed hard into the tree. Kai slowly collapsed on the ground while shouting that it was impossible, but he was glad that his predictions were accurate because it would have been bad for him if he continued to waste his energy. Kai, who was badly hurt on the ground, loudly told him that he was merely a piece of trash, so he wondered how could he lose to that trash. Then Kai angrily told him to just wait until he goes back, but then he noticed Chumo's fierce face, making him ask Chumo if he was going to kill him. Then he loudly told Chumo that he couldn't kill him because his father is an advanced martial artist, so if he killed him, he wouldn't spare him. But when Chumo stepped on his chest, he shakily begged Chumo to have mercy and told him that he had something good to offer, but he just told Kai to shut up and straight away slashed Kai's neck. Kai collapsed on the ground dead while the system showed him that he could absorb his target Kai and asked him if he wanted to absorb. But he simply grabbed the wind attribute out of Kai and told him that his wind attribute was his. He then absorbed the wind attribute and opened his eyes. Then, he immediately jumped in mid-air and noticed he was so fast. He flew around the trees and felt like his body had become one with the wind because his speed had increased more than 3 times. Furthermore, he also felt an increase in bodily control and agility. Then he jumped into the huge trees quickly and quickly got down next to the dead body of Kai. He was amazed that the power of the wind attribute talent was truly amazing, just as he expected. But he still put his hand on Kai's body, wondering what else he could collect. Still, he was shocked to get the martial art bronze ranked sky-splitting blade, making him wonder if the absorption system not only allows one to absorb innate talents and physical attributes but also the skills that the deceased learned during their lifetime. He put the martial arts skill inside his body while happily thinking that the absorption system is too powerful, and the first prize for that trial is just a bronze-ranked martial art. When the skill entered his body, he saw Kai using the skill and saw that the sky-spilling blade has 3 layers in total. So if he can learn the first layer, he can cover the blade with a layer of blade aura, and when reaching the 3rd layer, it becomes an almost tangible blade light. But he noticed that Kai should be only at the 1st layer because Kai's blade was only emitting a faint glow. Still, its power is already formidable, so he knows that if he can cultivate to the 3rd layer, the attack range of the sky-splitting blade's wind blades can reach 30 meters, which is quite impressive. But then the system popped up in front of him and showed that it detected special items available for collection, then asked him if he wanted to collect it. He looked at his hand and replied that he should collect it and take a look. The system then showed him that he obtained a treasure map. He couldn't believe that the absorption system could even get that kind of thing. He spread the map in the air, knowing that he must see what secret that special item prompt was hiding. The map clearly showed him the place, and he was shocked to see the Earth Dragon lair. The system told him that during the process of clearing the Earth Dragon Beast's lair, a 10,000-year spirit essence was discovered, and there are indications of other potential hidden treasures that await further investigation. He remembers that it was rumored that after a martial artist uses it, it can enhance their talent and physique, a precious treasure of heaven and earth, and he never expected such a gain. But he knew that he must go to the Death Dragon's lair. But before that, he knows that Zhu Kai is from the Zhu family in Luoyang City, a force he cannot currently contend with, so he can't let anyone find out that he killed Zhu Kai. But he realizes that he has stayed there long enough, so he planned to dispose of the body, then he'll find the elemental spirit bee nectar, and finally, he'll look for a place to rest. But before that, he should see what other good things Kai has on him because he can't let anything go to waste. The night came, and he was catching the honey on the elemental spirit bee nectar in the tree hollow. When it dropped the last drop, he looked at his bottle, knowing that he could only get half of a caddy of elemental spirit bee nectar, and it can support his cultivation for at most 10 days. Then he put it with his other collection, knowing that with the elemental spirit bee nectar obtained today, he got 21 bottles of ferocious beast blood, 6 of which were collected from the rampaging giant bear, 8 from the classmate it killed, and 7 from other ferocious beasts. But he thinks it was strange that there was nothing on Zhu Kai's body except for a blade and bag. He looked at Kai's bag and noticed that its texture really resembled that of a ferocious beast's hide. Then he remembered that when he first saw Kai today, he wasn't carrying a blade at all, so he wondered where Kai took out the blade from. Then he planned to open it to see if he can infuse Kai into it. The small bag slowly opened and released a blue light, then, inside it was a space as huge as a land. He happily said that, as he expected, it was a storage bag. And the Zhu family is really rich because that thing is probably something most martial artists can't afford. He happily touched the things inside and noticed that there are so many elemental stones, and the original owner of his current body was born poor, so he is also in desperate need of elemental stone. Elemental stones are special minerals formed after the great changes in the world, and their energy can be absorbed by martial artists and used as currency among martial artists. And now he has at least 600 pieces of low-rank elemental stone there, so along with 12 portions of fierce beast blood, 3 of which are at the 2nd level, making him think that Zhu Kai is truly a generous benefactor. He put all his collections inside the bag while happily shouting that he'll take it. Then, the bag closed on its own, and he caught it, knowing that it can't be exposed because a small place like Luoyang Base doesn't have many people who can afford it. After that, he opened his bottle of elemental spirit bee nectar to try the effect. Then, he immediately drank it, and it flowed smoothly inside his body. The wounds in his body slowly healed, and he felt that it was completely different from the excruciating pain when taking the beast's blood because it was a warm stream that flowed through his entire body, soothing every tiny wound. He felt his body floating in the air in relaxation, and he could breathe easily. When he felt the last flow inside his body, he slowly opened his eyes and fully absorbed the elemental spirit bee nectar. He was amazed that with just a small sip of elemental spirit bee nectar, the beast blood that would have taken 3 days to digest was now fully absorbed in a few hours. And if he can have a steady supply of elemental spirit bee nectar, he can keep swallowing beast blood without limits. Then he grabbed one of his beast blood tubes, planning to keep going before daybreak because he wants to increase his strength as much as possible before exploring the Earth Dragon's beast lair. The next day, he was flying mid-air, remembering that, according to the system, the Earth Dragon's lair should be right up ahead. Then he noticed that it was down there, so he quickly descended in front of the cave. He looked around and noticed that it had been thoroughly investigated and cleaned up, and the average person shouldn't expect to find treasure there. So he realized that the Zhu family was really powerful because they were able to hide the clues under the noses of the investigation team. Then he proceeded to walk inside and noticed that it was a pretty deep hole because he had been walking down for more than 10 minutes, but he still hadn't reached the end yet. But then the system alerted him and told him to touch the right wall, so he obeyed and touched the wall, but then it became soft like water, making him wonder if it was a man-made barrier or if it was naturally formed. Also, he didn't expect the absorption system to be able to even break barriers, so it was really great. Then he walked through it to go inside and saw the shining essence on the ground. He was glad that he found the 10,000 years essence. Then he reached for the shining ball floating in the air, wondering if it was a sub-product of the 10,000 years essence. He looked at it closer and figured out that it was indeed true that where the treasures of heaven and earth are born, there are spirits accompanying them. Then he planned to put it away first and study it later. He touched the essence on the ground while wondering what the book said about it and if he should soak his skin in it. He smiled like a criminal who escaped from jail and jumped into the essence while throwing his pants and shirt away. After he was soaked, he felt a weird feeling because he felt so heavy and very sad, as if the life and death emotions of the creatures who had lived on that land for thousands of years were contained in it and were all coming together in a powerful force full of fighting spirit and pouring into him. He felt that it was heavy with a bloody smell, but it was endless. After that, he opened his eyes and put his hand on the ground to rise up. But he was shocked that he flew out of the essence like paper. He looked at his hand while wondering what was going on, but he realized that the wind attributes seemed to have completely integrated into his body, and the weight of his body could hardly be felt, so he wondered if that was the case, what about his other talents and physical attributes? Then he opened the system, and it showed that his physique was an advanced cultivation physique, and his talents were superior thunder attribute talent and superior wind attribute talent. He looked at the essence and was glad that it was worthy of being the essence of 10,000 years because he absorbed 4 bottles of beast blood last night, but it only increased his basic strength by 500. But now, his cultivation physique and talent attributes had been directly upgraded by 1 level. But he thinks although the 10,000 years essence is only effective the first time they use it, it was better to collect some for backup, and the rest will be left there because he guesses maybe there will be someone else who is destined to come there in the future. When he was done collecting some essence of 10,000 years, he excitedly said that there were still 3 days left in the trial, so he should try to get to the next level before the end of the trial. 3 days later, the teachers informed them that those who had come out should come over and line up to register their scores. Then Teacher Lin proceeded by telling Mei Guangtao that he had 13 points, Yuan Hanny 6 points, Q Ning 21 points, Lu Chen 19 points, and continues. One of the students happily shouted that he had 67 points and maybe he'd get second place. And the students said that the first place must be Kai and Kai will definitely come out soon, while one of the students behind was shocked to see Chumo alive and walking toward them. They couldn't believe that he came out of the wilderness alive, but he just walked past them and straightaway told the teachers that he'll register his score. Then he poured out the things he collected, making the strict teacher stunned in shock. Teacher Lin calculated his collection and shouted that it was a total of 103 points, making the students wonder how that was possible from the trash like him, and if could it be that he came across something and picked it up. A minute later, the strict teacher told them that it was time up and the student hunting trial was over. The students looked to the forest while saying that Kai really didn't come out and wondered if Kai was really in trouble. But then the man told the others that Chumo must have picked up the materials of the ferocious beasts Kai fought. The strict teacher asked him if he has seen Ju Kai in the jungle and he replied no, but the teacher angrily asked him if he's still not telling the truth and where he got all those beast materials, and he replied that of course he hunted it himself. Teacher Lin told the strict teacher to calm down because although it was a pity for Ju Kai, it was impossible for Chumo to kill him with his own abilities. The strict teacher replied that Teacher Lin was right, so he declared that the first place winner in that hunting trial was Chumo, making the students stunned in shock. Then the teachers told them that the rewards for the trial will be handed out at the academy, and there was something dangerous there that killed Ju Kai, so they couldn't stay there for long. Then they ordered the students to get in the car and they would go back immediately. When he was about to go up the car, the teacher stopped him for a minute and told him that Ju Kai was dead and he had got so many praise. So the Ju family will not believe that he had nothing to do with Kai's death, so after he receives the reward, he should go home and stay inside because it was best not to go out for a while. Meanwhile, in the lying base at the Ju family's old mansion, Ju family patriarch Ju Cheng asked the man reporting to him if he said his son Ju Kai fell in the hunting trial of Amir Academy, and no bones were left. The Ju family's early-stage martial apprentice expert, Qi Nian, replied yes and explained that it was what the college said. Also, they didn't find Kai's body, so it might have been devoured by a ferocious beast. But strangely enough, the first place winner of that trial is a cripple who can't cultivate, and he had a conflict with Kai over a woman. Cheng was pissed to hear that a cripple took the first place and broke the white tiger's head he was petting. The tiger falls to the floor dead while Nyan begs his master to calm down. But Cheng just tells Nyan that if things went wrong there must be a demon and orders Nyan to bring Chumo there while thinking that if it really has something to do with that kid, then the secret treasure he asked Ju Kai to find should also be in Chumo's hands. Almost 1 month later, in the apartment, Ziwei opens the apartment door and says she is home. But when she looks around, she wonders if Chumo is not there. She puts the bag of food on the table next to the food, realizing that since that day, Chumo had been preparing meals for her every day. This was really different from the usual, but she decided to ignore it and practice before eating because the school hunting competition is only 1 month away. So she must advance to the level of a martial artist, get first place, and hunt for the gallbladder of the two-headed python. But then she was shocked and confused to see marks on the training tools and realized that it looked like an electric burn, making her wonder when that happened. Meanwhile, in the abandoned area on the periphery of the base, the system showed him that his basic strength is currently at 9,900 Jin and his attribute Thunder Enhanced Strength is currently at 19,700 Jin. He knows that it's been almost a month since he returned from the hunting trials, and on the 15th day, his basic strength had already been raised to 9,900 Jin. So he was only 1 step away from the level of a martial artist. But in the past 10 days or so, there has been no further improvement. He grabs the book while thinking that it is because he has reached the peak of martial arts apprenticeship and he must break through the bottleneck before he can enter the level of a martial arts master. So he knows that he should practice what is in that book for a change since it's one of the rewards from the hunting trial called Bronze Level Movement Techniques, Ghost Steps. He read that he needed to concentrate most of his energy toward his feet and disperse the rest around the outside of his body. Then he tried it out while thinking southeast, but then he tripped and was about to fall to the ground. But he managed to control himself, knowing that it was not just about controlling his energy because it also involved paying attention to his breathing, beside the movement of his whole body, and even controlling his rapid heartbeat. He also knows that if it was an ordinary martial artist, it's probably not a good start. But now that he has the Thunder attribute, it's as if that movement technique was made just for him and that he has a bit of a knack for it. Then he jumped higher using his ghost steps and continued practicing it, realizing that it was really extraordinary and short-range teleportation. Plus, the ghost steps will definitely have good results in actual combat. Then he practiced the combination of skills over and over again until he was exhausted, and it was almost the end of the day. So he planned to go home first, but then he felt someone coming closer to him, making him shocked. And when he was about to ask who it was, a man appeared in front of him. Nyan asked him if he was Chumo and introduced himself as Nyan to tell him that he was there on his master's order to invite him to the banquet for a while. But he replied that he didn't know his master, nor did he wish to, and told Nyan to leave because he was going back home. Still, Nyan told him that his master was Ju Cheng, a late-stage martial artist who was likely to become a master martial artist in the future, and was also one of the most powerful men in the entire lying base, and asked him if he didn't even want to give Cheng some face. He knows that Ju Cheng is Ju Kai's father and, sure enough, the Ju family is really after him. But he tells Nyan that if his master comes there in person, he will naturally give him a face. But as for him, then ask Nyan who he is. Nyan launched toward him to grab him while furiously calling him ignorant and told him that he was not allowed to refuse. So if he was not going to come with him, he'd capture him himself and bring him to his master. But when Nyan was about to grab him, he disappeared like air and appeared behind Nyan, making Nyan told him that it was a great move and that he can actually practice. But then Nyan was shocked to notice that he was holding his young master Ju Kai's sword. Then Nyan, shoutingly, told him that his master was right and that the death of his young master really had something to do with him. Nyan once again tried to grab him, but he dodged it easily again. Then he attacked Nyan from behind using his breaking blade skill. Nyan dodged his attack and asked him how could he use it, but he just teasingly replied that it was the breaking blade level 1. Nyan was furious, released his firepower, and shouted that it was ridiculous. Then launched toward him using his vulture claws while furiously asking him why he knew how to use his young master Kai's sword and what has he done to Kai. He used his wind power to protect himself while asking Nyan if he wanted to know because if so, he'll send him down to ask Kai. Nyan told him that he had the same wind attribute as Kai and asked how his breaking blade could be stronger than Kai's. Then firmly told him that he was going to take him in for interrogation. Then Nyan attacked his windshield using his claws. He noticed that Nyan was an early martial artist's strength, fire attribute talent. But it was inferior to him because his talent had been raised to a superior level and his physique had been raised to a high level. So Nyan was nothing to be afraid of. Nyan angrily and continuously attacked his shield using his sharp claws. Unfortunately, Nyan breaks it while shouting at him to watch him break through his wave of knives. Then Nyan launched his sharp claws to kill, but he just laughed while activating his lightning and told Nyan that he was waiting for him. He grabbed Nyan's face, who was shocked that he had lightning talent. But then he slammed Nyan hard to the ground without giving Nyan time to react. Then he used his lightning to electrocute Nyan to death, which made a powerful thunder around them. When he saw that Nyan was dead, he pulled his hand back and told Nyan that as an early-stage martial artist, he had no right to fight him because his current strength should be comparable to that of a mid-stage or even a late-stage martial artist. But he knows that Cheng has already set his sights on him now, and it is very likely that he will attack him himself. Also, he knew that Cheng had been in the late stages of martial arts for years, so he was afraid he was still no match for Cheng. So he knew that he must advance from an apprentice to a master as soon as possible, and maybe he'll just have to go deeper into the wilderness and break through his limits in a fight. The next day, in the martial arts supply hall, a must-visit place for martial artists before going out on a hunt. This is where martial artists trade materials and information. They can also take on tasks issued by different forces and individuals while receiving rewards for their work. He goes inside knowing that if he wants to train in the wilderness, he must prepare medicinal pills, weapons, and survival supplies. He thinks it is best to buy all the things he needs for the wilderness in the same store. Then he saw the Jade House store and remembered it was owned by the famous Jade Business Alliance. He went inside, and the lady greeted him and asked how she could help him. He replied that he was going into the wilderness for a while and would like to buy some essential items, then asked the lady if she had any recommendations. She replied that he had come to the right place because their store has a full range of wilderness survival kits, from first aid to all kinds of wilderness survival supplies, and almost every martial artist has a set, and it sells particularly well. Then he heard someone behind him asking how much the thing was, and the employee replied that the luxury set was 600 yuan stones, making him think that to be able to take out so many stones at such a young age, he seemed to be a very strong martial artist. On the other hand, the man told the little lady to stop pestering him and go away, then explained that it was not that he didn't want to help her. It was just because her task was too difficult, and the two-headed python was a level 2 medium ferocious beast, and required at least the strength of a mid-level martial artist. But the little lady begged the man and told him she would give him the beast's egg and all the primordial stones, but the man told her to go find someone else. The people whispered around that it was a pity the little lady lost her parents at such a young age, and after being adopted for a few years, her adoptive mother also got sick, and the cure for her mother's disease is the heart of a two-headed python. But it was a level 2 medium ferocious beast, so no one dared to go. But they knew that if the little lady had a lot of money, there might be intermediate or higher level martial artist experts who would be willing to take the task. But all she has is a ferocious beast's egg that won't hatch for more than 10 years. Hearing this, he thinks that with his current strength, the level 2 medium ferocious beast is not impossible to challenge, and he remembers that the habitat of the two-headed python is in Dash Mountain, which is his going destination. Also, he notices that the little lady is quite pitiful, so if he can help her, he will do so. Then he asked the little lady, who was sad, if her task was still available. The little lady, cryingly, replied that it was still available and asked him if he was going to accept that task, to which he replied yes. The little lady repeatedly thanked him, and he gently told her to go home and wait for the good news. The other martial artists couldn't believe that there was really someone who would take on that kind of task and guessed that it was just because he saw that the little girl made a lot of noise, so he was trying to make her leave, while the lady with the old woman was behind the crowd. The old woman asked the lady if she would like her to stop that young man and told her that since someone already received the task, there was no need for them to take action. The old woman also told the lady that the young man had a pretty good heart because the task was obviously not worth it, but he still went ahead with it, which was rare in that era, to which the beautiful lady agreed. 2 days later, in a wild area, Dashu Mountain, within 20 miles of the Lying Base, it's a relatively safe area, and is also the trial area for the base trainees' regular trails. The closest real wild area to the Lying Base is Dashu Mountain, which is 100 miles away, and it was also the best place for Lying Base martial artists to solidify their cultivation and hunt for supplies. After he fought dozens of level 2 low ferocious beasts, Iron Mantis half a day, the effect of training is obvious, and now with the blessing from his thunder and lightning talent, his strength is at 50,000 Jin because he has concentrated on taking the blood of ferocious beasts, heavenly material and treasures. His power, which had been slightly impetuous, has been polished more and more solidly. Also, his breaking blade has entered the 2nd level, and his ghost steps were also on the verge of breaking through. But a mantis appeared behind him and attacked him, but he disappeared like the air and easily cut the mantis in half from behind. He planned to look for the two-headed python when he broke through to martial artists. Meanwhile, at Lying First Academy, the students were gathered in front of the school stage, but the student noticed 3 new men, making them wonder who are those people because they looked pretty strong. but the Dean of Lying First Academy and Grand Master of Martial Arts, Shen Jin, ordered them to be quiet and told them that the student hunting competition will be different from the previous years because that year, his Lying base will join forces with the Chengfeng base to conduct two city trial, and that hunting trial isn't just for the students of their first academy, but it's also for the other academies and martial arts schools on the base, as well as all the students of the Martial Arts Academy in Chengfeng base. The students were shocked to hear it and shouted that with all the academies and martial arts schools on both bases participating, it was going to be a huge trial, and the two-city trial offered more rewards, but the danger was also much higher. Jin told them that he knew what they were worried about, but explained that the trial will be held on the outskirts of Dashu Mountain, and he didn't need to tell them how dangerous it was. Therefore, in that trial, students were allowed to form teams freely, and they are also allowed to give up on the trial. Jin also told them that alongside danger are great opportunities, and for that trial, both bases have offered generous rewards, so the top 10 teams or individuals will receive rewards including but not limited to storage bags, martial arts techniques, beast blood, and primordial stones. The students in elite classes at Loyang First Academy think it was interesting, so he must get those rewards. They said that Dashu Mountain has level 3 to level 4 beasts, so it is certainly a challenge. Ziwei noticed that Chumo didn't come, but she was glad about it because a dangerous trial was not suitable for Chumo. Then she remembered that 3 days ago, she successfully entered the martial artist's realm, and her strength had increased dramatically that time, so she planned to make it to the top 10 in that trial and kill the two-headed python to get the snake's heart, because only that way can Chumo get a chance to change his talent. But then she heard someone asking the men what are they doing and why are they pushing people. Zhu Guang, the pride of the Chengfeng base, teasingly told them that the Liang base was getting more and more deserted and there was not even a single person who can fight. Also, when they heard that they were going to Dashu Mountain, they were all scared shitless. The other Chengfeng students teasingly told the students of the Liang base that their Chengfeng base's strongest pride, possessing high-level saber talent, and was already a mid-stage martial artist, so it was an honor for them to personally review the Liang base's trash. Liang students angrily ask the men what they say and how dare they underestimate them, and tell them that after the trial begins, they will let them know what it means to bring misfortune out of their mouths. Guang was pissed to hear it and attacked the men who talked back to them, which made a loud explosion. But fortunately, Ziwei blocked it using her gloves and told Guang that private fights are prohibited in the academy. He teasingly told her that he didn't expect such a small place like Liang Base to have such a beautiful girl. But then a teacher furiously asked them what was going on and ordered them to stop it because they were ready to go. But before leaving, Guang looked back at her and told her that he'll see her in Dashu Mountain. 3 days later, loud rumbling sounds could be heard in Dashu Mountain. He was surrounded by beasts while the rumbling sounds emanated from his body. He took out another beast's blood because he felt the tiger and thunder leopard roaring inside his body, a sign of a breakthrough. He drank the beast's blood as they circled him, realizing that after showing weakness, the ferocious beasts were ready to attack again. However, after breaking through the martial arts realm barrier, he felt a surge of power he couldn't get rid of, so he needed those beasts. He jumped towards them, shouting for them to come again, then slashed the surrounding beasts easily and continuously, releasing powerful purple thunder and lightning. Minutes later, all the beasts lay dead around him. He noticed that his body's impurities were completely expelled, proving the effectiveness of Yijing marrow cleansing. The system showed his basic strength was 17,710 Jin, and his enhanced strength from thunder and wind attributes was 71,235 Jin. Glad to have broken the 10,000 Jin threshold, he was now a martial artist with superimposed thunder and wind attributes, capable of fighting even mid-stage martial artists. No longer fearing Zhu Chen, he was almost ready to return. But then he remembered he was near the two-headed python's habitat. He hadn't expected to find it before reaching the location, but assumed the noise from his breakthrough attracted it. The level 2 medium ferocious beast, a two-headed python, emerged from hiding. He sensed its aura was comparable to a late-stage martial artist, a level 2 advanced ferocious beast. One head released black liquid, which he dodged, but the other head appeared behind him, shocking him. He managed to step on its teeth, jump backward, and distance himself, but then it released poisonous gas that paralyzed the body. Panicking, he activated his wind attribute, using ghost steps to avoid the python's synchronized attacks from both heads. One head bit off his shirt, causing him to shout at its speed and run away, but the python was fast too. Realizing he couldn't outrun it and would only exhaust himself, he decided to focus all his energy into his legs and use the residual energy from his breakthrough to attack with the second level of the ghost steps. As one head opened its mouth to eat him, he slowly disappeared. The python, thinking it had eaten him, closed its mouth, breaking the ground in the process. It then realized he escaped and began searching for him. He shouted, asking what it was looking for, but before it could react, He cut off one of its heads, causing it to hiss in pain. It searched for him angrily, spewing venom. He realized concentrating all his energy to break through the second level of the ghost steps had doubled his speed, making it almost impossible for the python to see him. He easily dodged its venomous attacks, then jumped towards it, shouting for it to look at the sword. Before it could react, he slashed its head off. The python's body fell to the ground, and he breathed a sigh of relief, thankful that his ghost step breakthrough during the battle made the python easier to handle. He put the python's heart in his bag, knowing it was needed for the little lady, and that its gall was good for the body. He also collected 20 vials of beast blood, which shocked him, and greedily took the snake skin for protective gear. He smiled at his bag full of items, saying the hard fight was worth it because one level 2 advanced ferocious beast was worth 100 level 2 low ferocious beasts. Realizing it was almost time to return after entering the martial artist realm, he planned to visit the supply hall for more suitable techniques. However, he heard a girl shouting for help. Meanwhile, an injured lady ran from beasts shouting for help. He ran past her, making her look back in shock as he easily chopped the beasts into pieces. Tearfully, she asked if he was Ziwei's fiancé, Chu Mo, but he asked if she was Du Jing from the elite class and why she was there. Remembering something, she panically told him they encountered the Wind Wolf King and Zula, and that Ziwei was in danger. He grabbed her wrist, asking what she meant and what happened to Chen Ziwei. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comments section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.